Well, it's 5:30, and do you know where your author is? She's sitting at her dining room table, reading her book, Committed to Love, to a whole bunch of new people. Oh my goodness. Countries and states. And yes, if your name does not look familiar, I check you out, and chances are I write something very personal to you, which one day I hope I'm so busy I can't, but the flip side is I'll hire somebody to do it. Well, on a personal note, I want to say thank you as always. And the other thing is, though we are going to be moving into chapter 12 today, I'm not rushing with any of this because you're getting into the guts of my whole story. We've gone through so much, but most of it has still been my journey getting to where I've gone, from AIDS, the diagnosis, to the hospital. But it's been my journey with Jeff, but a lot of it's been about the AIDS and about my journey with him. The chapters that I feel, and I can relate it, that 40 years ago when AIDS was first recognized, the fear was amazing. It's no different than every once in a while you get a virus like COVID that comes along and people are afraid. You don't have a lot of information, and the information you have, you don't know who to trust, you don't know who to believe, you don't know what. So the best thing you can do is best you can do. When Jeff was diagnosed in 92, there wasn't a lot of information, and we were certainly as prepared as anybody could possibly be. So as far as my journey goes, I've taken you as far as the diagnosis and everything else. You'll have to go back and do the overview, the short story version on my website, SusanMintz.com, because what to me has been the most powerful, and what I wish somebody would have told me, or had a book that said these are some of the guidelines for this, a long-term illness. And there are many. Mine happened to have been AIDS then, but you still have, let's say, 15-year-old Parkinson's can go on for 12 to 15 years. Or you can have Alzheimer's, certain types of cancer. I mean, a disease takes its own course in your body, and each body is going to react differently. The doctors can only do so much, and then you have to do so much, and then God always has to finish it up. You'll never be able to make my story into a movie or a series without me first saying, to God be the glory for keeping this woman, 76 on May 4th, alive to still tell this story. And I've been telling it for a long time. So the chapters that I really feel are getting into the guts of my life and helping you the most. One was chapter 10. And I did hear from my website lady that she's going to upload my readings at some point onto my website. It'll be under books. I don't know when, but she's going to do that and put it on my YouTube channel, which I don't know how to do, but I have one. I have something of everything. I just don't know how to use it. But this I'm good at. So chapter 10 was prioritizing and organizing. And I think that is something that was extremely important for you to realize, that you must get that under control. Planning, looking ahead at what might be, contingency plans, what you have to do. The phone was our biggest issue, who we could talk to, who we couldn't. It was just a whole different dynamic. So prioritizing and organizing is extremely important to keep things stable during the instability. I said to someone else it was rigidly flexible, and it was manageable chaos, and it was instability in the stability. And that's how I had to look at it. So there were so many parts of prioritizing and organizing we went into. Again, go back on Facebook, go through all my readings. I've actually learned how to put a description down so you will know exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm reading the book in its entirety, though it might take 2 readings, maybe 3, to get to what I want you to know. And I'm not going to rush it, because some chapters require 2 or 3 readings, because I'm only doing it for 20 minutes to half an hour. But there's so much in there that I will repeat it, because I want you to take away the substance of what I'm talking about. So prioritizing and organizing. And it took 3 months for Jeffrey to put on that 20 pounds he lost, and it was not easy. The next chapter, which is still going to go into a little bit more, is baby steps, because I feel that this is one that everybody goes through in life. I don't care if it is who it is. You have baby steps in life you must go through. You can't you can't run before you walk. You can't read before you know how to read. You can't talk before you know how to make words. Baby steps come in all different forms. Baby steps for me with Jeff was getting him to eat, was getting him back to be able to sleep, was getting him in to be able to do so many things that we weren't able to do. When he first watched a movie with me, for the first time in months, he stayed awake during a movie. To somebody who's not ill, that's nothing. To someone who was near death 3 months earlier, that was huge. I worked so hard and for so long, and so did he. We fought this thing long and hard. So chapter 11 with the baby steps was very important. We have prioritizing and organizing. That was in chapter 10. Baby steps is chapter 11. And then I'm going to go back into it a little bit before we go to chapter 12, which will be, this is a great one, stability, transitions, and plateaus. You're going to have a lot of that in your life, whether it's an illness or not. So we talked about there were emotional baby steps, which were the hardest to deal with, because the stress was a roller coaster ride, and it required tremendous patience, love, determination, and it was a 24-hour-a-day process. We experienced anger and fear and depression, and sometimes periods of isolation, like we weren't getting anywhere. Then the issues were AIDS, because it didn't have a cure, and the prognosis for Jeff wasn't good. The other reason I say to write is that when you're being bombarded, even today, if you get a cancer diagnosis or liver, you got a liver issue, you don't want that for sure. They'll only give you 1 liver. You are going to be bombarded with so much information and data and labs and reports and clinical thises. And now today you can Google everything, which will make you more confused. But you are going to have your blood work, you're going to have clinical data, you're going to have so much stuff to deal with. Write it down, record it. If you put it that way, put it in the phone. Put your phone on record and record it now. But you have got to learn to deal with the illness, not to control it, not that it can control you. You have to just you have to work around it. We also, here's where we're going to start for sure. You established a new lifestyle and routine as you took your emotional, quote, baby steps. And you accepted your illness and started to take back control. And you can start to take back control by knowing your limitations, by knowing what you can do, by doing everything you can do, and by realizing that nothing may be normal again, but a new normal might be able to be established. They're doing that with COVID. It's the new normal. I'm not there. I'm talking about AIDS in the 80s and 90s. So I'm shutting COVID down right at the moment. Though it's real, I got to back you up to my story. Here we go. This is starting again on Thursday, April 28th. I finally got the dates right. We also had to learn how to laugh. This is all part of Chapter 11, Baby Steps. We also had to learn how to laugh and have fun again. And if you don't think an illness, a long-term or short-term, will take the laughter and the fun out of your life, it will. It was hard to feel happy when everything around us was so sad. The weeks went by. We talked more. He had the energy. We shared our thoughts and rationalized our situation. We are very good. Human beings are excellent at rationalizing everything. But we couldn't find anything to make us feel good again. Real good. I remember the first time we actually laughed. It wasn't that I took a picture of his empty plate because he finally finished a meal. Yeah. Or he wanted to go out to dinner, and I said he wanted a pizza with anchovies. I said, you don't like anchovies. He says, I'll eat anything now. Or when he went to get the mail, and I was so scared, I didn't know where he went, fell down or something, and he said, I went and got the mail. I said, you don't like doing the mail. He says, I'll do anything now. Baby steps. So, but we couldn't find anything to make us feel good again. And this book's got a whole bunch of good stuff as we go into it. You came home from having a chest x-ray at the hospital. He was actually being able to go now and drive and go to the hospital. You had a 100-degree fever and you were freezing. You wanted to try and eat something, so we sat down for dinner. And his fevers were 104. So to have a 100-degree temperature for us, that was good. You were playing with a meatball and twirling the spaghetti around in circles when you broke out in a drenching sweat. You started to laugh and said, I think it's something in the sauce that broke my fever. Quote, I think it's something in the sauce that broke my fever. End quote. We spent so much time talking about eating. Why not make food the brunt of our jokes? And we did. We traveled all over the world. We ate in the best places. He was a gourmand, a gourmet. And getting him to eat again took everything I could do possibly but bribe him. And even bribing wouldn't have done any good. But that was it. He came home and he was twirling a meatball with the spaghetti. He had a fever. And then he broke out in when you sweat from something like this, you break out in a sweat. You started to laugh and said, I think it's something in the sauce that broke my fever. We spent so much time talking about eating. Why not make food the brunt of our jokes? That's when we started to laugh and have fun. We got hysterical as I made famous concoctions in an attempt to get you to take your medications. He did not like to take a pill. He could choke on a baby aspirin. We got hysterical as I made my famous concoctions in an attempt to get you to take your medications, of which there were so many, and they were big. You especially liked the pills in the Snickers bar dessert. You went to the refrigerator and took out the real butter, real sour cream, real mayonnaise, and said, this getting well diet wasn't so terrible. And that was one morning when he woke up, and I think he had a decent night, but he had to take this new medication. And the pill was huge. And I knew I couldn't chop it. Don't crush it. Don't do that. And I remember taking out the Snickers bar way before he got up. And I put the 3 pills right in the center, right in the whole Snickers bar. And I shoved them in there like they were almonds. No problem. He didn't realize they were pills. He thought they were almonds in a candy bar. I did everything to get him. We were so health conscious, too. You would never have thought. But the things I made up to get him to get fat, I could fatten anybody up. Another difficult issue was your wetting the bed problem. I don't mean wetting the bed yet. Wetting the bed urinally. I meant sweats. Another difficult issue was your wetting the bed problem. You broke out in horrible night sweats that drenched the sheets. You moved over to my side of the bed. I'd place several bath towels over the wet area, and I'd lie on top of them. There were times, however, when at 3 o'clock a.m., we were changing the sheets. One night you yelled, quote, let's invest in a laundromat, or use disposable sheets and linens, end quote. Then we started making fun of our nightly event, and it became part of our wellness comedy club routine. As I said, I'm giving you information that's going to help you so much if and when you have an issue like this. When you have chemotherapy, I went through a year of chemotherapy and radiation with a dear, dear friend of mine, a girlfriend years ago. She was after the surgery, and she was on the chemo, drenched the bed at night with night sweats. The other thing was her hair. Her hair was falling out. And finally, she just started wrapping it and wearing turbans because she was so conscious of it. I couldn't get her to wear wigs. She didn't like that at all, and I had wigs even then. But next thing I know, about 6 months to a year after everything, she said, Susan, look, she was getting little hairs back. She's got a head of hair so thick right now, you couldn't get your fingers through it. Baby steps. It was so hard. So one night when we drenched the bed at 3 o'clock in the morning, changing the sheets, he yelled, quote, let's invest in a laundromat or use disposable sheets and linens, end quote. We started making fun of our nightly event, and it became part of our wellness comedy club routine. He also liked when I dressed up and played the exterminator during your weekly inhalation treatments. Oh God, it was so fun. You also liked when I dressed up and played the exterminator during your weekly inhalation treatments. I would glove up, put on a mask, hook you up to the compressor. You had to walk around for 20 minutes breathing from a long plastic tube that came out of a huge blue mouthpiece. We looked like something out of a science fiction movie. These scenes weren't funny, but we started treating them like movie skits, and we were laughing again. And I put on all sorts of outfits. I think I had a helmet. I know I had gloves, long and short. I think I had on an apron, a metal apron, the kind of apron the kitchen people use. We knew the battle we were up against, but we adjusted and learned how to handle the issues. We never looked too far ahead, and though your progress was very slow and frustrating, there was still progress. We depended on our faith, and the belief that we would somehow make it through this time. We had a realistic hope for your recovery. Hope, remember? Hope, faith, writing. 3 things. We depended on our faith and the belief that we would somehow make it through this time. We had realistic hope for your recovery, and we continued thinking, saying, and doing, quote, baby steps, end quote, over and over again. You will adjust. If you don't, the disease will be worse even then than it is. You must learn to laugh. You must learn to deal with it. And it's your journey, whether it's your loved one or you, whether it's a family member, whether it's a best friend. You're going to have to learn how to take some kind of control over it in your life. Chapter 12 is another one that's going to be very important for you, and I will not rush. Chapter 12 is called Stability, Transitions, and Plateaus. Now think about that. I kept saying the only thing stable about my life was the instability. I already talked transitions, very slow, and plateaus. Ooh, nothing happens. You're at a plateau. It can be a good thing. It can be a bad thing. We're already up into March 1993. So we started in June of 92, and we went through 3 months, which would have been September, and into the 1st of 93. March 1993. Dear Jeff, this chapter is very important for you. Dear Jeff, it was a warmer than usual winter, and we welcomed the new year with renewed energy and an optimistic attitude. We were feeling pretty good, and we were very thankful for a second chance at life. We made our plans for a trip, went out to dinner, and did many of the fun things we used to do. You have made a remarkable recovery since June, and we both have come a long way. At this time, I would say the word stability best describes the status of my life. That's then, remember. I would say the word stability, March 1993. I would say the word stability best describes the status of my life. I am feeling this way because stability to me means balanced. 9 months ago, I never thought I would ever feel stable or balanced again. The other evening when we were in bed, looking through the travel brochures, I said, quote, Jeff, this has been the most stable time I've known since you took ill. I have found an inner peace. There is a balance between us, and I feel harmony in my life, end quote. That was then. Again, to go back and forth with me in this book is 1 minute I'm okay, the next minute I'm not. But that's what writing in a journal is about. That's why 15 journals became a book, because I wrote it all down and then transposed it and concocted it into this book. We slowly made our, quote, baby step by baby step, end quote, transition from one phase of your illness to another. We transitioned. Hear that? We slowly made our baby step by baby step transition from one phase of your illness to another. We have reached a plateau where we can rest. We have a good understanding about the disease, and there is an accepted and settled feeling with us that is wonderful. The past few months could have destroyed us, but we managed to survive and stabilize, and we made it together. I never knew what the words cherish every moment meant until now. I have to give you one more of these paragraphs in chapter 12. The reason I'm taking my time with some chapters is because you will deal with them. You're going to have no choice. You're not going to get out of life without something, and it's going to challenge you to your core. God, faith, a hope, good friends, and a tenacity to want to live against all odds. That's me talking to you, not from the book. It's a good book. It is a very good book. I don't really read it often. I read it once before, and that didn't work. But this is the second time I've read it. It's a very good book. Not on the New York Times bestseller list, but what do they know? From the beginning of our marriage, just one more long paragraph. From the beginning of our marriage, it could never be described as stable. We were young and naive when I got pregnant. This will back you up on some things. We were young and naive when I got pregnant. We were best friends, but we were not lovers. You didn't want to marry me because you loved me. You did it because it was the right thing to do. After the miscarriage, we chose to continue trying to make our marriage work. We had interests in common, shared similar goals, values, hopes, and dreams. The hurtful part was that I was angry and miserable about my life, and you were terribly frustrated by me. You were questioning your sexuality and trying to adjust to a marriage and lifestyle you didn't anticipate. Though I was working and independent, I wanted a certain way of life, and the financial security you could provide. These complex emotional issues caused us to argue a great deal of the time. However, over the years, we endured, persevered, and accomplished the goals we set out to achieve. We attained the degrees you needed to further your career. We traveled extensively and built several beautiful homes. We always knew what we wanted, but frequently we questioned who we were. That's powerful. We always knew what we wanted, but frequently we questioned who we were. On the outside, we appeared confident, secure, and in control of everything we did. Quote, we were the perfect couple who had it all, end quote. It was the picture we wanted our family and friends to see, and it was easy for us to be Dr. and Mrs. Jeffrey A. Mintz in the public eye and for your career. You were a handsome, successful doctor, and I was a beautiful, outgoing woman who adored you. You were a handsome, tell me some actors and actresses wouldn't give a finger, a thumb, something to play these roles. They would. Get me out. Here it is. You were a handsome, successful doctor, and I was a beautiful, outgoing woman who adored you. Only because of your illness years later would our family and friends finally learn about the other side of the perfect pair. Behind closed doors, we were living in a fragile, vulnerable, codependent relationship. Quote, we were stable individuals in an unstable situation, end quote. It has taken me a long time to recognize and finally admit that I was unhappy and afraid many times throughout my marriage. I brought a lot of issues to our marriage. Jeff had his, obviously, but I had mine. And I just wanted a different life than the one I saw my parents have in Troy, New York. And I knew I wanted out. And I wanted the lifestyle and the life that I knew Jeff could give me. Everything's bittersweet in life. There's no perfect. It's give and take. Some give more, some take more. But if you want your life to work, you're going to have to learn to compromise. Accept what you can accept. And compromise on what you can't, or walk away from it if you can. I have no regrets about my life. On the outside, let's say, I can still look to you like everything's right. Yeah, I'm aged and all that, but look at me. On the outside, you'd never know I have anything going on inside. But I'm just like all of you. I have emotions and feelings. I have aches and pains. I have joints that don't want to cooperate with my brain. I wake up some mornings and just thinking, what part of me isn't here any longer? We're all the same. We're flesh and bone. We're flesh and bone. We all bleed red. So don't think you're any more special or you're any different. We're all the same. I see from all your Facebooks, your occupations, your countries. I see all of it. There's someone I have to even see translations because it's in a language I don't know. So when life gets a little rough, try to smile and go, what can I do with that? If it gets too rough, tell someone. I didn't tell anybody until he was ill. I had no one to tell. I kept it all inside, which is why I had also so much frustration. But in the long run, I'm here talking, again, I'm tell about the lady who talks into her phone and is reading her book from 5:30 to 6 o'clock. That's a story. Could you find somebody else on Google who's doing that? You're not going to find it. I love you all so much, and thank you for supporting me. I'll be doing it tomorrow night again. My mouth is feeling much better. Thank you all for your prayers. Had a challenging couple months with a knee issue and a jaw issue and a few other issues, but God is great. To God be the glory. I'm still here talking. I'm going to say thank you and shalom, hello, shalom, goodbye, and shalom, peace. And if people don't know what shalom means, that's what it means. It's one of the few words that means three things: hello, goodbye, and peace. Be kind, have a little more patience, and call someone. Tell them you love them before it's too late. Make up with people, and share. My Facebook page is open to everybody. It's not just Facebook friends. Anybody who isn't can come on. Once it's uploaded to my website, that'll be wonderful. But I might decide to read the book again. I might decide to go on to my hospice stories, because those are great. But I want to say good night and shalom, and thank you all so much for listening. I am definitely a woman committed to love. Sometimes maybe committed, but always committed to love. I'm going to finish now.